Hey everyone, it's Lily with Shared Segments China. Thanks for tuning in today. Today I wanted to walk through my process of how I help other adoptees, Chinese adoptees, do their birth family searches and find some information about their biological families. All right. So just as a little disclaimer, this demonstration has been created with the permission of the Chinese adoptee discussed, and it also takes steps to anonymize living DNA matches information. The only people shown by name are that of the great-great-grandparent level in relation to the DNA match. The individual discussed as a potential common ancestor, Luang Lao, had multiple wives and children across China and the United States. So this means that his likely descendants number in the thousands. But even so, the full name of the DNA match, exact DNA coordinates, and specific family branch have been anonymized to protect privacy. So first thing I did was go to this adoptee's profile on MyHeritage, and I sorted by largest segment. This is important because a lot of people, like if they're born in America and, their background is, in America or they're European, a lot of times shared DNA, shared segments, and largest segments, your matches will all show up in about this same order. Maybe one or two people will flip-flop places. However, with Chinese adoptees, if you click around on these buttons, you'll see a lot of times it will move things around a good bit. And why that is because largest segment is what dictates the most recent relationship. So, for example, you could have two matches. You could share 66 centimorgans with each, and you might think, okay, so I should be equally related to both. That's not necessarily the case. You might share an equal level of DNA, but how recent the relationship was can change. So, if in this case, there's 11 total segments and the largest is 6, um, that is likely a little bit older than, say, somebody who shares 66 total over 5 segments, and the largest is 39.5. This 39.5 being the anchor. Oh, um, this doesn't mean, though, that DNA matches with smaller slash mid-sized segment matches are useless. They can provide really helpful context for where your family lived historically. So then going back to the profile, I clicked Review DNA Match. I saw that MyHeritage estimates for them to be about third cousins, which makes approximate sense, but we don't want to put too much into that right now because we don't know how the tree breaks down. A lot of times these generations were huge, like there could be 10 or more people in a sibling set. So we want to look at the actual shared DNA and go from there. So we look and see, kind of like I said, this is the stronger match than the one with multiple or a bunch of smaller segments. We've got the 39.5, 5 segments, total 66. So then scrolling down, I saw this person listed one of their ancestral places as Hawaii. And even though that might not seem super relevant at first, because I'm looking for a Chinese adoptee, Hawaii had a lot of migration from China throughout the years. And because when people migrated from China to the United States, that required a lot of paperwork, documentation, and a lot of that is available online. So looking at this person's partial family tree, you can see they're on it, their mother and their father. Unfortunately, though, I don't have their mother's full name, just their mother's maiden name. I have their father's full name, and their father's birth year, which was great, but again, very limited. But just at a glance, mother's maiden name seemed to be Native Hawaiian. So again, we don't know this for sure, but I just guessed that because the father's name seemed a little more Chinese, that the relationship is likely coming through dad. So then I went to Google and Googled the name of the father of the DNA match, and I was able to find a family search record. And again, we don't know right away that this is the same person, so we want to start lining up information to see if it matches. Okay, the full name matched, spelling and everything. That checks off. Next, I'm going to check birth date and death date in years. Okay, those match too. Okay, great. So right now, again, I don't know for sure, but I can start to weigh the side that, this is more likely than not that person. So then I clicked around a little bit more and I saw the profile also lists potential grandparents of the DNA match. Great, that's 2 more names for me to investigate. And then going back, this button says view tree. I clicked view tree, and now look at all these names I have. I have potential great-grandparents, potential great-great-grandparents, and then all of their kids. Again, I blacked out their names for privacy's sake, but there is a lot here that you can start to research now. And you don't know for sure, where the relationship comes in, but you can start to look at things that made sense. And again, in these years, the Chinese Exclusion Act particularly was in full force. So a lot of times there were many records about people like A Luang Lao and Shi Huang. So clicking around on the family tree, though, before getting into the rest of that, I wanted to see where the family tree could possibly overlap because, obviously if adoptee is in China, their lines probably didn't cross when they were in Hawaii. So looking at this, I looked at the great-grandparent level and I saw their birthplaces were still in Hawaii. This doesn't mean they never went back to China and, had a partner or whatever, but it just makes it less likely. So then I clicked around the great-great-grandparent level and I saw, oh, look, they were born in China. Perfect. Now, again, I don't know for sure where the crossover is or where even specifically in China necessarily, because sometimes I've noticed these records are not always sourced from, census data or immigration records. Sometimes they're user input. So what that means, it could be family spellings of places in China that have changed, or it could be family memories. So, things that are not always the most like accurate or family interpretation, things like that. Also note FamilySearch records, or I think it's familysearch.org, is a website where you can create a free account. I thought you had to be part of the church when I first logged on, but you don't. It's just optional to connect to your account. And I found it has been super helpful. But again, you want to find records on here, but then go on other websites to find, to basically cross-reference and validate what you found here. So again, I'm now interested in this great-grandparent level. So then I went back to Google and Googled A Luang Lao, Hawaii, because again, I know Chinese Exclusion Act is going on at this time. I know there's a lot of times that like he would have to be documented if he was traveling here and in China. Okay, initial Google search shows that there's actually a good bit here. We have he's noted as one of Honolulu's founders of China, or founders of Honolulu's Chinatown, which is a pretty big deal. There's a book about him called The Money Dragon. There seems to be some court cases. A will was contested. Again, we have to confirm that this is the same person. We don't know for sure, but we're going to start to build that context. So then, looking at this, we can start to build, okay, death date. Did that match what was on the family tree back here? All right, that does match. 1934. Great. So we can confirm that part of it. Looking at this link about the money dragon. This was a really great resource. I actually bought and read the book. Just note it's historical fiction, but a lot of the structure was helpful. The author named the multiple wives, described the dynamics, the relationships, travel between China over the years, things like that. One of the links also yielded a result on Find a Grave, which was great because as we've talked about before, having the Chinese characters can be so helpful when then if you wanted to go look up this guy in China then, because now you have the specific characters the family used. This also confirms that there was a little bit of a complicated family history. We have multiple wives, we have a lot of travel between China, we have court records, things like that. So these are all different places that you can find more information. So like I said, right now we don't know where the adoptee falls into the tree, but we started with one DNA match on MyHeritage who had two people on their tree. And now we have all these different links, resources, and family tree to explore more to see potentially, were one of these wives from the same province as that adoptee? Was there some kind of historical movement that would have, caused them to end up in the same place? So just things to think about. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in with that. I'm not sure when my next video will be. I work at a university, so it's a really busy time of year. We're getting ready for the students to come back, so there's a lot going on, but I really want to, get back to posting regularly. I do think that my next post is hopefully going to be about, safe resources in the community. I've been reflecting, and it's been about a year since I started my search journey. And I can say there's definitely a lot that's happened. There's a lot I wish I knew. And I do feel there's a lot of good information out there, but I also feel like there's not a lot of information about potential risks, and there's a lot of silence about, bad behavior that's gone on. So it's just something that I want to bring up and just share about what's happened from my perspective. I think everyone should decide on their own who they want to work with and who they want to search with. It's a very personal decision to even search at all. But I think people should, be fully informed about who they're working with, potential risks, and things like that, so that they can truly make an informed decision, and not have to learn it the hard way, like I had to, and I know a lot of other people had to. So yeah, that's just something I'm planning on working on in an upcoming video. So thank you.